Hello everyone and welcome back to my final CCR video, and in this video the question that I'm going to be answering is how did you integrate technologies, software, hardware and online in this project? So let's get straight into it. Firstly, I want to tell you a little bit about this thing called media convergence. What is it? Britannica.com defines media convergence as a phenomena involving the interconnection of information and communication technologies, computer networks, and media content. It brings together the three C's: computing, communication, and content, and is a direct consequence of the digitalization of media content and the popularization of the internet. We love that. I'll jump into this video by starting off into the hardware that we use. So let's begin. Camera. We did most of our filming with my beloved Canon EOS R50 camera. This bad boy has a 24.2 megapixel APS-C CMOS sensor with a sensor size of 22.3 x 14.9 millimeter. APS-C sensors capture more light and detail than smartphone sensors, improving dynamic range and low light performance. The R50 EOS had an ISO range of 100 to 32,000 ISO, but it's expandable to 51,200 ISO, which allows great low light filming. It can capture up to 4K resolution at 30 frames per second, with 4K video being oversampled from a 6K resolution, which allows more sharpness and details compared to the standard 4K. Its dual pixel CMOS AF2 system tracks subject across 100% of the frame. The camera's Digic X processor is the same generation used in Canon's professional cameras, making it an amazing camera to use in a professional shoot. This made my Canon EOS R50 our savior, as it provided such a nice and cinematic look to everything that we shot because of its insane hardware design. Okay, let me talk a little bit about the Canon EOS R50 toolkit, which included the handheld tripod, the microphone, and the 18 to 45mm lens. The only lens we had available to us was the 18 to 45mm toolkit lens that comes with the camera. Hence, we made our best use of that. Only issue I had with the lens was that we could not zoom in enough with it, as it had a limited zoom in range. But its internal image stabilization is still a really good pro to it. We also had the microphone with us, but being honest, it's honestly not the best microphone you can imagine, as you can barely tell the difference between the camera's own microphone and then when the microphone is attached. Hence, we barely used it in any of the scenes except for the first one. And lastly, the handheld tripod that came with it. This again, a lot of our footage was shaky cam footage, hence we didn't really have that much of a need for a handheld tripod. Hence, you will only see us using the tripod in our first scene of the film. Let's move on. Apkina 100 bicolor LED light. The Apkina 100 is a 100-watt light that is designed for studios and creators, which offers a 1 to 100% dimming range. The color temperatures of 2700 Kelvin to 6500 Kelvin, making it bicolor, which is great because the high temperature colors that the light offers was perfect for the warm range that we wanted for our final scene. So that was great. It has the color accuracy of 95 RA, making it a really reliable source when working in professional settings. It was super cool to use a light as professional as this because I got to work on board and work with the dials and knobs of the light and engage in technical elements such as setting it up on a stand and adding layers of red filter sheet to help us get the red light effect, which is one of the coolest things ever because I just kept putting the sheet on it and the light kept turning redder and redder. Sure, it became a little bit dimmer, but still, it was a very cool part of the entire setting of the lighting process. Moving on, we used a micro LED ring. We used a handheld micro LED ring that would only turn on if it was plugged into a power source, which in this case was my laptop, but honestly, since it always had to be plugged in the entire time, it was low-key kinda inconvenient. And not that strong either, like it had a very dim light range. Which is why we only used it in our third scene, which actually did come in a really high clutch because it had gotten really dark around that time and we couldn't really shoot without it, but we had it on us, so we made good use of it, so that was really great. Additionally, it had 3 light modes, which is like the neutral light mode, the cool lighting mode, and the warm lighting mode, which allowed us to have a much wider range when choosing which light we wanted for our third scene. Moving on. iPhone 16. We used Naveen's iPhone 16 for filming our third scene on the street, as sadly Canon's camera battery is like really tiny, so it burns out really quickly. It was really impressive to see just how much mobile phone technology had come, as we were able to achieve super great results with the shoot that we did with the iPhone. The iPhone 16 has a 48 megapixel Fusion main camera and supports up to 4K resolution at 60 frames per second, which is insane. And it also has Dolby Vision audio. That is such a cool detail for a phone camera to have. iPhone 16 also has an advanced audio mix to manage sound, including isolating voices or creating a cinematic soundscapes. All things that elevated our project by a ton and helped add that professional feel to the text. Oh, the mention of cinematic reminds me, the iPhone has like this cinematic mode in it as well, which you can shoot on, which honestly already does so much of the cool stuff for you, such as like blurring out the backgrounds and picking out the focal length and picking out the sharpness of the scene. It was a really cool thing to work with, and we utilized that into our project as well. Okay, moving on to our laptops. So the laptop that I have is a Dell Latitude 7400. I use this Dell Latitude 7400 to carry out basic functions like plugging in the ring light on the day of the shoot, because I was the only one who brought my laptop on me that day, and it was also constantly used by me to communicate with my team and view the rough drafts of our projects. Second laptop, Lenovo ThinkPad T90. This was the laptop that Naveen owns, and she's the designer of our project, so she used her laptop to make all sorts of designs for our production house logo, for our title, our posters, our merchandise. Everything that was done design-wise was done on the Lenovo ThinkPad T90. Moving on, Dell Inspiron 15 was the laptop that Simra had, who was our editor of the project, so the entirety of the editing was done on the Dell Inspiron 15. Yay, we're done with hardware. Let's do software now. Okay, software. Let's move on to planning and pre-production. Okay. For pre-production and planning, one of our most used tools was Google Docs. Google Docs was like a literal savior when it came to planning. Not only did we use it for things like budget reports, risk assessment sheets, the REAST report, literally everything that you could do, we also used it to brainstorm all of our ideas into one main place where we could keep them compiled. It was also just an amazing place to journal your thoughts about the creation process and script out basic understanding of what we wanted the production process to look like. Moreover, I also use the Samsung Notes to take down basic notes during the meetings, just so I can keep them on me and refer to them later when I need to remember something. Pinterest was like the best friend when it came to planning, because we used it for things like getting inspiration for the costumes, but also using things like making mood boards, pulling from different films, and getting an understanding of the artistic dimension that we wanted our film to have. So Pinterest was just a really great way to visualize what kind of film we wanted to make. Okay, screenwriting. As for screenwriting, we use the online software Writers Duet, my beloved, which has a very beginner-friendly interface and has the option to make copies of the script that you have made, which allowed me to make a copy of the original draft that my teammate had made and fully edit it together on call with them. It was super easy to use and very comfortable to navigate. Writers Duet is just an amazing website if you're a beginner starting out and want to get into screenwriting. Research. So when it comes to research, I consulted sources on websites such as Google Scholar, one of my favorite things, because it was such a great place to get a basic understanding of how social groups are represented in the horror genre, and also how social issues are represented in the horror genre. I also consulted Substack, which is where you would find a lot of articles not exactly written by academics, but other people really passionate about film, which is a really fun place to pull your information from. Moreover, I also used YouTube. YouTube is where I learned more of the technical things about my project, in the sense, how can I work my camera settings, what sort of composition techniques I should look about, what are the conventions of general film openings, Studio Finder, Film Finder. These were great YouTube channels that helped me out a lot in understanding what direction I had to take the film in. So these were all great sources for like researching and understanding the technical elements that go into crafting a smooth production process. Communication and coordination. WhatsApp was our main source of communication, as it was the place where we had a group chat and the place where we organized most of our meetings from. WhatsApp was also the place where I made the group chat with the cast and crew prior to the day of the shoot, and also the place where I sent the production schedule for everyone to easily navigate and look at. WhatsApp group chat was also the place where we shared all of the behind the scene photos and brainstormed our next move for the project. Google Meets was the place of our meetings, as it was a great place where we could screen share and not face many audio and screen interruptions. It provided a smooth communication process where we could come together to plan out our next move. Post-production. We decided to do all of our editing on CapCut towards the end, because CapCut has become really advanced in recent times, with providing features like stabilization, sound mixing, built-in color grading technologies, and so much more. It had practically everything we needed. Although initially we wanted to edit our project on Premiere Pro, the thing is that our editor, she was learning editing from like literal scratch, and it would have been an insane learning curve to go from nothing about editing to jumping to like an industry professional software which is known for how complex it is. Especially the fact that we had little time left towards the end and we're kind of in a time crunch. She felt more comfortable using CapCut, which is why we were a-okay with that. We were like, whatever you're more comfortable with and whatever helps you edit a better project. So we decided to do our final editing on CapCut. Additionally, Canva, our holy grail and savior. It is such an amazing designing tool. We use it to design our title, production house, merchandise, literally every single design thing that you can think of. Even this presentation that you're watching right now, it was designed on Canva. That's how cool of an app it is. And anyone can learn to use it. Okay, lastly, the final thing, Spotify. Okay, Spotify was the place where we went up and we looked up a lot of music, like the sort of stuff that we can integrate into our film. I remember looking up this playlist called Subliminal Audios, or like Subliminal Horror, because that's like the kind of genre that I was thinking that we could integrate into our film, because it's like a very liminal kind of film, right? So yeah, I found that playlist and I shortlisted like a bunch of songs from there that I felt like could be integrated into our project. It was also a great place to just find like instrumentals, like songs without lyrics. So yeah, Spotify was a great place to pull audios from and then see if they could be potentially added into our final project. Okay, and that's it for the hardware, software, and online tools that went into the making of our project. I hope you like my portfolio as much as I loved creating it, and I hope you have an amazing rest of your day. Alright, goodbye. The final goodbye.